if our focus is only do's and don'ts, which I'm not saying by any means is not important, but accompany your do's and don'ts with relationship. Even what's going on. If you're new to my channel, I am Shanika, aka Bellama, here on YouTube, and thanks for joining me today on this video. So today's video, as you can tell by the title, is going to be a rant. I have a few topics in mind, things that I want to talk about. Yeah, so let's get into the video. So as you can see by the title, I did say it's a rant. And so I first want to acknowledge what has been happening. It has been a crazy few weeks in the world, and we know that, I think at the heart of what's going on, the intention is good. People are protesting and speaking out against injustice, and yeah, there are several conversations that can take place, but this video is not directly about that, but I did want to acknowledge it because I think it is important, especially as Christians, to acknowledge the injustice of our people. Yeah, so let's get into the video. So I do want to come on here, and I was going through some of my reading material. So anyways, yeah, so today I want to talk about just two of my favorite books. I decided to come and share them with you. I don't know if I've ever shared them in a video. I know I posted them on my timeline on WhatsApp and Instagram, on social media. I've posted these books on social media, but I don't know if I've ever sat down and like talked about them with you guys. So anyways, the reason why I decided to talk about these two books is because out of all the books that I've read, and these two are consistent, and I always come back to these two books. So I decided to share them with you, and I also want to take today to talk about depression a little bit. And I think it's a very valid topic, actually, seeing what we're experiencing. As I said, the video today is not necessarily about Black Lives Matter, but as I talk about depression and life and church, you guys will be able to draw from this video what you will in terms of how it connects. But yeah, so the first book that I want to share, and as I said, these books by no means are not the only books that I go to, but these two books I have consistently gone back to, and so I think like they're worthy of their own video. So the first book is by Miles Monroe. It is called Understanding Your Potential. Hopefully you can see it. Now, for my family and friends who know me, I think they've heard me talk about this book. I think I've talked about it several times. Miles Monroe is a pastor and author, was a pastor and author of his own congregation. I believe he's from the Bahamas. He actually died a few years ago. And that's actually how I found out about him. I heard about him in the news. I Googled him, started watching a few videos, and I don't even know how I came in contact with this book. I think someone gave me this book. I have no idea. But I got it, I read it, I fell in love, and it's been a go-to book. It's a book that talks about, as I said, understanding your potential, discovering the hidden you, and it's a powerful book. So if you are in quarantine and you are looking for a book to read, or you're looking for something to do, I would strongly recommend reading this book. Every time I read it, I find something new. Like, it's completely highlighted. What I also like about this book is it also has a study guide. So at the back of the book, which you probably can't really see because of the lighting, there's a whole section. And the way in which this book works, it goes by section. So with every chapter, there is a bunch of questions for you to consider. And then when you go to the back, you can go ahead and answer these questions. So I didn't want to mark the book up. So I actually, years ago, I did it on a separate piece of paper. And I forgot where those questions are. So it's always good for me to be able to go back and revisit the questions because they're thought-provoking and they're interesting. I'll read some quotes for you guys just so you guys get an idea of why I like this book. So I'm a big quotes fan, if you follow me on social media, or if you even have me, if you have my phone number and you see me on WhatsApp, I'm consistently always posting quotes. I love quotes. I find them endearing. I find them to be motivating. I like to read quotes and save them on my phone, write them on places on the walls. Like, I'm just that person. So potential, I might just leave screenshots actually of parts of the book that I really enjoy, so you'll see that show up on the screen at some point, because I don't want to necessarily bore you by reading from the book itself. But I just think it's a really good idea if you're looking for a good read. I'd recommend this book. The next book that I would encourage anyone to read if they have a chance is Practicing Greatness: 7 Disciplines of Extraordinary Spiritual Leaders. Now, this book, as you can tell by the title, is geared to spiritual leaders. It's geared to pastors, ministers, things of that nature. But this was one of the books that I had to read for school, because I took a leadership development course, and this is one of the books that they had given us to read. So not everybody in the class was necessarily trying to become a minister, but our teacher found that it would be helpful to read this book just because of the insight that we could gain from reading this book. One of the first things you actually see, like one of the first line in the book, has always like struck me. And the first line of the book says, "Deliberate mediocrity is a sin." Deliberate mediocrity is a sin. So when you choose to be mediocre, when you purposefully do not live to your full purpose, when you know you can do better and you don't do better, when you know that you can be functioning at 100% and you're functioning at 50%, that is a sin, because you can do so much more than you are allowing yourself, or not just allowing yourself. You're not fulfilling your purpose, your God-given purpose. So when I read that intrigued me to continue reading. I didn't even need to continue reading, but just from reading that one line, I was definitely curious to see what else the book had to say. So as I said, this book, it does speak a lot about leadership as it relates to ministers and spiritual leaders. But I think if you are a leader in any capacity and you are a Christian, I think you can definitely glean from this book. If you are a youth leader, if you are a praise and worship leader, if you lead in your home, if you're a mom, I think any leadership capacity that you carry, added that you're a Christian, you will find this extremely helpful. I think even if you're not a Christian, you will probably find something in here that is that can be beneficial to you. Yeah, so those are the 2 books that I wanted to highlight, because I think they're really good books. Yeah, so if you're looking for a good read, you're in quarantine, you're at home still. I know some places they're slowly opening up, but if you still find yourself at home with nothing to do, I would definitely encourage you to read these 2 books, because they are worth reading. Okay, so this book is from Miles Monroe, Understanding Your Potential, and this book is from Reggie McNeil and is Practicing Greatness: 7 Disciplines of Extraordinary Spiritual Leadership. Okay, so yeah, check those out. I also want to talk a little bit about depression. I know that was like, this video's all over the place. I told y'all from the beginning it was gonna be all over the place. So yeah, I do want to talk about depression very quickly. I'm trying to organize to get some people on the channel who have some experience with dealing with individuals who have experienced depression. I'm just finishing in terms of graduation. I'm still going through the process of becoming a certified psychotherapist. So I'm in transition, but there are some people that I know that have experience and have so much to offer, and I want to bring those people on my channel so they can share with you guys their insight and their experiences. So I will probably try and bring you a video a month where I'm targeting a topic of interest as it pertains to therapy and counseling. So I haven't figured it out yet, but I do kind of just want to share a little bit with you today, and I'm going to hone down on making one video a month dedicated to counseling, therapy, a chit chat video with you guys, just so that we can have some one-on-one talk. And I hopefully the topics will be informative and helpful, because I know a lot of people, Christians, experience depression, and it's something that the church is slowly getting better at addressing. I think in the past we just shunned it, and it was something that you needed deliverance for. I am not saying that you cannot be prayed for and you cannot be better, but what I've experienced with deliverance is it works in stages. And so you have your the spiritual component where your mind is renewed and your mind is healed, but there are actual steps you have to take in your everyday life to maintain that healing or that deliverance, and we don't necessarily focus on that, and that is where a lot of people go wrong. So they come to church, they get prayed for, they get delivered, and then they go home and it's like, what do I do now, right? We don't necessarily walk people through the healing process. We don't walk people through, you know, maybe you need to cut off some friends, maybe you need a new environment. Like, there are things that people need to change that they might not be aware of, and so they will come back 6 months later, 3 months later, back in the same position, and you know, some people will say, well, you didn't believe or you didn't have enough faith. No, it was there are different areas to deliverance that has to take place that didn't take place, and so they're right back where they started, right? If you are an alcoholic and you no longer you know, you came to Christ and God has freed you from being an alcoholic, when you go back to your environment, birds are really loud. When you go back to your environment, there are steps that you have to take to ensure that you're not tempted to go back into that lifestyle. My point is, I think we are getting to a place where we're getting better at having these type of conversations, but we still have a long way to go in understanding how we work as human beings, and how it is not just a one-time fix all. It is a process, and the process has to happen for the healing or the deliverance to be maintained. Okay, so yeah, I told you I'm talking about random stuff today. So anyways, as it pertains to depression, as I said before, it is something that a lot of people do experience, a lot of Christians experience. And I think with depression, there are two types of depression, and the words are slipping me right now, so I'm gonna put them baby brain. Okay, you guys have to forgive me, I'm sorry. I got 6 months ago, my brain is fried. But there are two types of depression, and I'm going to leave the names of them in the bottom on the screen. So the first one, I'm doing some memory. Okay, so the first type of depression is biological in nature, and it usually requires medication, antidepressants for treatment. People who suffer with this type of depression, it's on and off for them. For those who don't know, depression is usually a symptom of something. So when someone says they're depressed, usually the question that I will ask them is, has something traumatic happened in the last few months, few weeks? Have you always felt depressed? Have you lost a loved one? Have you lost a job? So usually I will always refer to the second type of depression, which I don't remember the name, and I'll post the name right here. So so the first type of depression, the first major type of depression, as I said, is genetics. It is something that is biological in nature, and usually the people who experience this depression are born, has to do with chromosomes and a whole lot of science behind it, but they haven't necessarily experienced something traumatic. They just, throughout their lives, they have just always experienced symptoms of depression. And the other one, as I said before, has to do more or less with a traumatic event. Has to do with, you know, the loss of a job. Like, those are examples: the loss of a job, a loss of a family member, extreme stress conditions, things like that usually amount to depression. So depression is a symptom of something. That's the point of what I'm saying. Depression is a symptom of. And so depression usually does not stand on its own. You have people who are bipolar who will experience depression. And so so an individual who is bipolar or schizophrenic might experience depression, right, as a symptom of their disorder. So as I said, depression usually does not stand on its own. And when I say stand on its own, as I said before, it is a result of something. Just like when you have a cold is usually a indication that there's a virus in your body and your body's fighting the virus, and hence you have a cold. Personal story: when I experienced depression, I went through my stage of depression in high school. I think high school, FYI, can be for a young person the most stressful, uncomfortable, confusing time of their lives. And I say that because I think for a lot of young people, they are trying to figure out who they are, where they fit in the world, who they want to be. They're struggling maybe what their parents have told them they are, or what their parents want them to be, who they are. If those two things come into conflict, so many different things. So I would encourage parents and guardians alike, in the stages as your child goes through, or as your loved one goes through high school, I would encourage you as parents to really exercise patience, because I think in this time you might find that your child will stress you out more than ever. They will push buttons more than ever. They will try you more than ever. And sometimes it's rebellion, sometimes it's just the pressure of what they're experiencing. I think a lot of people say, I've heard a lot of Black parents say, you know, what do you have to be depressed about? You're not working, you're not paying bills. Listen, if you've been to high school, it can be extremely stressful. So you really have to just be really supportive and really understanding of your kids. Give your kids some space to just figure things out. I'm not saying you can't have rules. I'm not telling you how to parent your child, but I'm just telling you from experience, a lot of the kids, during my internship, a lot of the clients that I had were high school students, college students, and the thing that they said over and over and over and over and over and over again was the idea that, number one, they felt that they had no one to go to in their churches, because I went to a Christian school. So within their churches, they felt like they had no one to go to, and some of them were leaders and felt like they had no one to turn to, because they felt that if they were to speak up on how they were feeling or what was going on in their mind, they'd be shunned. And so that brought a level of anxiety and fear for them. They felt like they had to be this perfect person, and they had this image to live up to, especially PK kids, ministers' kids. They really struggled with, okay, God, I'm struggling right now, and I feel like I don't have the right to struggle because my parents are pastors, or my parents are ministers, or my parents hold a spot in the church. And so I think a lot of young people struggle with that. I think a mixture for myself. I think my biggest thing was just I didn't have a strong sense of self-identity. I think I was really struggling with, like, who am I? What does it mean, you know, to be a Christian? Because unfortunately we don't, as I said, things have gotten better, but we don't cultivate a community where our kids understand. Yeah, so I think for a lot of us, for a lot of young people, I don't know if they feel that they have, I don't think they understand, and maybe this is something that I also struggled with as a younger person. What does God feel like, look like outside of church? What did God look like for me, when I wasn't being told what to do. But how do I live up my Christianity at school? And how do I deal with peer pressure? And how do I deal with conflicting conversations that I've never been posed? Like, no one's ever asked me that before, and I've never had to struggle with homosexuality and that being something to deal with. I've never had to struggle with this and that and the third. So I think there are a lot of different elements to life that might bombard a young person, especially going through middle school, high school, that they probably never had to address. As I said, things are getting better and kids have a better understanding, and our churches are getting better. But I think there was a time, and there is, and for a lot of people, that they are still experiencing this, there isn't this sense of God is God for me. They are very much lost as it pertains to living out their Christianity. And it's a bunch of do's and don'ts and not relationship. I speak about relationship all the time because I think it's something that we say what we don't understand is cultivating a relationship with God. Because when you cultivate a relationship with God, as a parent, you don't have to tell your child what to do. As a parent, you don't have to police your child. If there is a relationship with God, that child will maybe even come to you and be like, you know, Mom, I was gonna do this today, but you know, the Holy Spirit spoke to me, or I just like felt like that wasn't the right thing to do, or whatever the case may be. But if our focus is only do's and don'ts, which I'm not saying by any means is not important, but accompany your do's and don'ts with relationship. Push your children to have a relationship with God, and don't tell them what that relationship should look like. Allow them to figure it out. Allow them to figure that out. To get what I'm saying? It's one thing to ask your child about, you know, teaching your child how to pray and making sure they know the Bible, but also encouraging them to have a personal relationship with God that has nothing to do with you as a mom. That has nothing to do with you as a dad. That their relationship with God has nothing to do with church and what's expected of them. Allow them to learn about God, how they learn about God. And then you can guide them, you can direct them, and you can have conversations, and you can cultivate a space where they feel comfortable and they're open to share with you. But I think we stress the wrong things at the wrong time, and we push often our children out of church. Not intentionally, but allow your children, promote your children to cultivate relationship. Because what will happen is they will be away. They will perform away in front of you. They will act they will come across a certain way because they think this is what mommy wants, this is what daddy wants, so I'm going to be like this when I'm in front of you. And then when they go to school, when you're not there, they're a completely different they're a completely different person. I did that. Now, was it that the child don't love God or maybe wasn't saved? No, but they did not understand the difference between relationship with God is everywhere I am. It is not so much a set of rules that I follow in order to maintain my Christianity. It's understanding that if I'm standing in front of you in front of the camera, you can see my Christianity, and it is evident. If I am at school where no one from church is there, or no one from my community is there, or no one from my family is there, I'm representing Christ. And once your child understands that, once you understand that, it's a completely different experience. And as I said, you don't have to be hounding your kids. You don't have to be wondering what they're doing. It's a different experience. And I learned that maybe grade 11, grade 12, I had that deep understanding that, okay, if I'm a Christian, I need to have a relationship with God that goes beyond my parents, that goes beyond my church, that goes beyond what people think I should be like. It's a relationship. And so I hope that this rant or this talk was somewhat encouraging. As I said, and it was all over the place, but I did want to do like a little intro video to this segment of my channel. As I said, I'm going to try my best to do a video once a month with a topic of interest and dive into that topic with some questions and answers for you guys. Do my research and come and talk to you guys about that topic. and utilize some of my psychotherapy skills. So if you have topics that you think are interesting, that you think that other people might be interested in watching, or you're interested in hearing my opinion or my thoughts on it, please go ahead and leave your topic in the comment bar. I want to thank you guys so much for watching and staying until the end. Thank you for your positive comments and feedback, and I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.